Good afternoon, everybody. So I have a presentation. In the interest of time, I'm going to keep it to and try to keep it to half an hour. So I may be running a little bit faster. So today we're going to talk about a slightly different subject. So when I got the opportunity to talk in front of this august audience, so I was choosing the topic of design lives. And one of the things that I've been talking in the other parts of the world is to see how the cities are designed and also how sustainability plays a part. A brief introduction about me. So I run a product design company called Lumium Design. I'm also treasurer of the global design organization called ICSID. Some of you are members of the organization. ICSID is a non-profit global design promoting agency based out of Montreal. It's about 60 years old. And some of the other pictures are my personal interest. So let's talk about, do you have that? Yeah. So it makes my job easier, front and back. Okay, thanks. So most of the facts that we have seen here are already known to people. So we have predicting 5 billion people that are going to become urban or urban cities. And the other challenge that we have is 12.3% who are supposed to be older generation is going to go 22%. And the demographic dividend is, we as India and China are going to benefit a lot because you already heard that 1/3 of the world population is under 25 or living in these two countries while the other population chooses not to have kids. So that's one advantage these two countries have. And climate change is most critical for all of us. And then there are 3% of the people are migrating. So what does it bring to these cities? We all are suffering through being in one of the most busiest cities, like in Mumbai or in San Francisco, where I live. Traffic jams, pollution of all kinds. Parking is a nightmare. We just park, for 10 minutes, but we look for parking 20 minutes. Rising housing cost, giving birth to slums. And then there's a crime increase. So how can these be solved? As designers, we are all here, sitting here to see what can we do to solve the problems. Some of the things that we are seeing as potential solutions, the urban designers are looking at these challenges on a day in and day out. Better urban planning or zoning is one of the key tools that are available for urban designers to do that. And then we are also trying to use the resources to the optimum levels. We are seeing, sometime back, I used to live here in Mumbai about 30 years ago before I moved to the West. So what was Vashi at that time and what is Vashi today, the new Bombay, is really amazing. So that's what we mean by extending the urban areas. Those of you who are living in Mumbai or living in Vashi, don't feel the need to come back because there is an R mall or S mall or M mall. All of these are available so that you don't feel the need to come to this side. And then also create a level playing field for all the cities. That's whatever name we are calling smart city or high-tech city or planned city or trying to do for the urban problems. One of the challenges of urban design is keeping the focus. A lot of design, we always look at how beautiful we want to design the products. But unfortunately, that's not what takes us to the solutions. We need to really keep the human beings as the center because we are going to live in those cities that are very beautifully designed. So we should work about how the city works rather than how the city looks. The critical ask in the last 10 years or so around the globe, the challenges that the urban designers are asked to do is, how are we going to build an integrated city? How are you going to enable these social and environmental changes? Of course, health is always one of the primary criteria and encourage the resource usage. And lastly, how are we going to handle the environmental issues? Climate, quality of air. We saw Delhi and Shanghai, people are not able to breathe. So how are we going to be very resilient and enable the sustainability? To our great pleasant surprise, the urban designers around the globe have responded very, very well. They created less and less carbon footprints around the globe, you'll see in a minute. They created more bicycle-friendly cities and public areas. Pedestrian-friendly zones are coming our way every day. and also visually impactful public space. So in the city where I live, there is, in the last 10 years, I've seen the city planners are making it a lot more pleasant for us to walk. There are, they do the art around the places where we walk, as opposed to a simple, a garden where there is only trees and flowers and shrubs. So they're making it more artful and tasteful. That's where the designers come in and help us, and also extend the urban areas to reduce the congestion. The next few slides, I'm going to quickly run through some of what we are seeing around the globe. This is a beautifully designed city bikes, which is a bicycle renting place in Vienna, where anybody can just go in and take a bike. And then also, they made it very convenient. You don't have to come back to the same place. You can drop it wherever. There are many, many of these kind of kiosks around the city. So it makes a wonderful experience for people who are visiting, so they could use the bike and not add to the pollution. This is another beautiful view of the Danube River. So next to the river, they actually created a very nice public space. One can go and enjoy what was used to be a not so publicly attractive space. They converted into a very, very beautiful landscape there. So this is an interesting scenario. If you look at the before and after scenario, before there was this is a real life scenario where there was a big, huge, as you see in Europe, the roads are very, very wide, unlike some of the other cities. Of course, in Europe, Milan is very narrow, but if you go to other places, there are much, much wider roads. So Amsterdam and other places in Netherlands, you do have some of the wider roads. And as you know, Amsterdam is also a very crowded and very congested place, and it's also water is the main mode of transportation, the waterways. So they created a canal in a place where cars were parked. So that's the beauty of the urban designers. They understood how to use the dense areas and still create spaces that are useful for all of us. Also, they used the efficient transportation. In general, if you look at the smart city, if you've ever been to any smart city conferences, this is what you will hear. These are the 8 key things that the city is looking at very critically to see how do they save on resources, how efficiently they are managing the waste, because as the urbanism increases, the waste also increases tremendously, and how do we handle our waste is one critical aspiration, as well as the environment, smart buildings, we have all seen, smart grids, and then the clean energy. So I couldn't help put this slide up when I just got, because I happen to live in one of those cities. So this is I was quite surprised by this slide when I saw a couple of days ago when I was preparing for this slot. So this is the source is valetHub.com. So they took the measure of what should constitute to be the greenest city. There are multiple, statistics is always a funny thing, how do you bring about certain aspects of, projecting a data, which we are all living in a data-centric world. So they chose 4 key elements. One is the environment. Second is the transportation. How do people commute from place A to place B? What do they use? Are they bicycle friendly, or they are using EVs and other methods where they don't burn any polluting gas? Also, how are they bringing energy to their homes? How are they using the energy? How efficient? And generally, in terms of lifestyle, how much time they have to give it to their family besides, going to work and commuting. So we all spend almost 1/3 of our lives in commuting and then working, and then we have very little time for us. So this is a typical scenario in the Silicon Valley, but of course, San Francisco is slightly different. So out of the 100 cities, I took the 10 cities, and I was pleasantly surprised. There are 5 or 6 cities that are from California. So this is another building on the right side. If you see San Francisco Transbay Terminal, which is very beautifully designed by the urban designers. Keeping in mind, this, for some of you who are following the smart city movement, LEED is actually one of the guiding factors or philosophies or standards that is emerging to see that are you LEED certified is a question that people ask typically when they're building new cities. That also gives you an idea of what you could do to make your city more green. And then there's also, these are different tools that the policy guys have, active transportation grants, transportation-oriented development, which reduces the congestion, biodiversity sensitive urban development. This is a very a new concept. So what do we mean by the BSUD is typically we like to keep the environment around us not disturb the environment, so that the urbanites like us get a chance to mingle with the nature. So that's the kind of principles that which, they are doing the landscaping and keeping the tree without, breaking them and building around. All of those are coming under the techniques of, biodiversity-based, development. And then, of course, traffic analysis. They use different models nowadays as to how many person miles people are traveling as opposed to the level of service that we did. So in a biodiversity scenario, so this is an example I took from San Jose, where I live, and we just go near my golf course. I see this place all the time. So the focus here is to keep the ecological design so that the birds and the other lizards and other small animals and insects, they are not getting disturbed by the urban activities that are around them. So they try to keep them together, and they also form some sort of, they look at the soil and how the surface water, how do they remove the silt from the surface water without damaging the, if you see in most of the US, probably Nina, you could see, they will say in the gutter, they will say, please do not drain. This is, preserving fish and other things. This water goes to the lake or the river, therefore don't dump, your oil and other things. So that actually comes as part of the biosphere detail, where they try to build the water that is going into that is actually not capturing the silt so that it doesn't damage the biolife which is inside the earth. The other trend that we are seeing, the same urban design principle that we were all using 10 years ago, 20 years ago, are also the cause for the problem that we are seeing. They created zones, they created, different kind of zones. We had the high-rise buildings, and we had not thought through the way it was looked at today. And those are the things that are changing today, where people want to do everything in city within a city. Right? People want to work and enjoy, and then also do their entertainment in the same cities. Examples are D3 in Dubai and also Matsar in Abu Dhabi, where they are creating those kind of environments where within one small area, you do everything that you want to do as a human being. Cities are fighting this, cities and builders. Mumbai is no exception, where people are trying to see what can be done in what zone. So this is another powerful tool that the city has, especially in the US, where the regulation is done through all your legislations and through governance. So we have several ballot measures that ask the people, do you really want to keep this natural resources intact? So we vote for it, and then we are able to, the city planners have a tool so that they can divide the zone into different zones and then try to maintain it so that the cities are kept together. Again, stricter zoning policies, more public spaces. The one on the right side shows, it's not very clear here because it's pretty light. The light greens on the right side are the way they actually removed the lanes, and then they created to more walking space, public square, or parking space. So in 2014, we actually, ICSID, my other organization where we promote design, we conducted a 2-week workshop at the Wellinger Institute of Management. It's called Interdesign, where we actually talked about how can the education, Matunga seems to be very concentrated in a lot of schools. So how children or the kids who are studying, the adults, young adults studying, how could they really participate and enjoy the place without the traffic bothering them? So one of the things that we suggested in that workshop was how to change the road that is taking you from Matunga station to Dadar, so which is very similar to what being done in New York here. If you look at it, those of you, you've been to New York about 6 years ago, and they've gone now, especially the Times Square, you will see the one at the bottom. Actually, the bottom is the one that is, one side of the Times Square is all now tiled with red, and no buses are allowed, no transportation. Only you can walk. That's meant for pedestrians now. And that's what, people are talking about, separating the pedestrian traffic and the vehicular traffic. And then they also create a lot of, public art. So parking for local businesses which are there in that side of the Times Square. People can park, they can do more commerce, and they get more safety because people are not getting run over by scenarios. The transit-oriented development is actually encouraging less car ownership. It also does not provide for huge towers of businesses. Therefore, it helps you to monetize and create the spaces for people. Parking is less, as well as it enhances the quality of life, largely to reduce the commute time to go to work. That's the key thing for us in sitting in big cities like Mumbai. If you look at the sustainability, it's a very confusing term. It's got multiple meanings. Every time you talk about sustainability to somebody, you're going to get a different definition. That's for sure. So, in the US, when you're looking at the smart cities or the green cities, they're looking more healthy way of life for people. They're trying to hit two, fruits with one stone. They want to get more pedestrianized way of life. They also want to invest more in public transport. As a person living in the Bay Area, I would love to have more public transport because we cannot. If you're 4 people in the house, you need to have 4 cars because there is no public transport in the Bay Area, even though it's one of the most advanced, developed areas in the US. And sharing versus owning resources. It's a simple comparison. I used to have people working for me coming from San Francisco, and they've been living all their lives there. The first thing I did going to US was to buy a car, and then buy a second car. And then my kids became big, I bought a third car. But here, they don't want to have any car because they are very happy by sharing the resources, by going to, we have some examples like, Zip cars and, Ubers and other similar scenarios. They're perfectly happy paying $7 and go from this place to another place rather than owning the car, paying insurance and paying parking and doing all kinds of things for those 10 minutes of commute in the morning, 10 minutes of commute in the evening. Minimizing the plastic usage. This is a global phenomenon. We see everywhere that, this is happening. So they already banned in the US in majority of the states. We cannot get the free plastics bag that you used to get. So we need to carry our own good cloth bags. And then humanizing the metropolis. So again, as I said earlier, we are looking at people-oriented design, not just, technology-oriented design. It's a huge shift in any form of design, especially in the urban design, because urban design is actually focusing on people. It's all about solving people's problem. Therefore, humanizing is a huge, huge factor today. And then there are zero waste programs. As I said earlier, the Masdar in UAE, they have zero emission because in that city, no cars are allowed. So it's actually, you can only do a typical, EV or everything is through pods. So there's no car concept in Masdar, which is near Abu Dhabi. So I think world is going towards that. Whenever you're looking at, some of you are maybe urban designers, you're looking at designing how to change. I know India has made a huge remark saying they're going to build 100 smart cities, and hopefully some of you may be part of that. Keep these factors in mind. This is what the Western world is doing around the globe. They're looking at high-performance buildings. Typically, how do they improve the interiors of the buildings, keeping better light so that, you don't need to have light. Most of the buildings in the US, they're all going towards, automated lighting. If nobody is there, there's no lights, automatically they shut off. And then they also do a lot of skylights so that they don't want to burn more electricity. Okay. That is also going towards the green star category. We have seen this water and power conservation is always there. And then waste management is one of the major, major challenges in the world. And recycling on site. A lot of us are lazy. We can just go and put the cans. They even offer you 5 cents per can. Out of 50 cents that you pay for your Coca-Cola, they give you 5 cents, which is 10%, but we are lazy enough. We dump into the garbage every day. Even though we have been told, we learn, most of us don't do it. The other key factors are compactness. Again, talking about the US lifestyle, we are consumer frenzy guys. We like everything big. We want to have everything large. So we are trying to educate our population in saying, how do we reduce the per capita resource usage? Why don't you be happy with smaller things? Why do you need a 30-ounce Coke? Why not you be having 10-ounce Coke? So those are some of the things through education we are trying to get there. And then mixed-use communities, small businesses. The strip malls are a good example. So we don't need to go to the bigger mall, but you can have a smaller mall near your house, and then we can be happy with that. creating a mini city kind of an environment. And then the biophilia is the one that we talked about, the BSUD, how to conserve the coexisting of the human beings, urbanize, as well as the nature-loving, insects and animals and everything live together. And then we could go from one area to another easily. Of course, technology comes into very, very big play in the building of smart cities. Most of the people who are looking at smart cities and going to those conferences are looking at how do I make my product, go into the smart city so I can become a billionaire. But there's nothing wrong in that because the technology is also helping us go towards that. If you look at it, there are, today, none of these terminologies should surprise anybody here. We have smart homes, we have the Internet of Things that monitor, of course, big data, everybody is watching us all the time. And then we also have the smart energy grids. And the best part of the cities that they are doing with the help of Google and other data collecting agencies to collect the data, and then they also look at how you're using. Recently, 3 days ago, Google might have told you they're going to change the policy. You might have said yes to that without looking at it. So if you look at it, they are saying we're going to look at what video you're watching. We're going to look at that video. This is just 3 days ago. I just signed yes to that, so I remember it. So you're looking at data as to what you're doing, how you're doing. The data can be collected and also used progressively for designing a better city. Use of technology continues. I'm sure most of you know Lyft and Uber. Scoop is a very interesting concept. We'll talk about it in just 1 minute. And a larger number of companies, unlike the IBM and other big companies, even smaller companies are allowing people to work from home to be able to save. In fact, one of my friends in the US, he's got a company, but he's got 40 people in Manila, and there's no office. 40 people are working from home because they're going to take 2 hours to go one way to their offices. And he goes every 6 months, he rents a 40-room hotel, the entire hotel he books, so that he can spend time with his employees for a week. That's the time all employees meet together. Otherwise, they are on Skype and other technologies. But he says work ethics are great. There's no problem in production because you allow them to, save them, give them some more life. They're going to thank you for spending 2 hours less and more with their family than on the roads. And then, of course, self-driving cars are coming and smarter homes and Google Shopping Express. We all know that. Amazon is there to add to that. Scoop is an interesting concept. I want to dwell in a minute here. So this is in Charleston, South Carolina, where the city decided instead of people coming and constructing parking structures, again, not adding to the greenness of the city, they demolished all the plants. They simply said they bought several Nissan Leafs, which are EV vehicles, and you have to, if this is your CBD, the Central Business District, you have to leave your car outside. Wherever you want to go, no money needed, no credit card needed, nothing. We'll just drop you wherever you want to go. They figured out that is a lot cheaper and more sustainable for their city than creating a structure of EVs. Even if you encourage EV, you have to have another 20,000 charging stations. So this was an excellent concept, and then they took the sponsorship from. That's why I showed the 2 different cars. They are actually asking you to put your banners in the car, and then the restaurants have said that they are having more business now. Because otherwise you say, oh, arey yaar, parking ka problem hai. Let's not go to that place, Let's go to some other place. Or let's order food in. So this problem is solved by these guys. So another company in San Jose, so they are actually, they built an IoT platform where San Jose City is using this platform to monitor that garbage can over there. Imagine in a stadium, there are hundreds of, garbage cans, and if you don't need it, they're going and changing the plastic bags because this guy needs to go and do this work. Or similarly, if there is no section that need not be powered or air conditioned, then you can quickly check this out. So this is a great platform, so you can look at it. I'm sure people know about IoT. A lot of our problems are in measuring. We all talk about big stuff, we said we should do this, we should do this. How are we measuring? Are we able to measure it? That's the key problem for most of the designs or challenges that we all have. How to measure the response is something that we need to be worried about as designers. If you are coming up with something to measure, please make it very simple and non-demanding. Most of the surveys I don't take because once you say yes, they won't let you go. You need to have this, you need to have that. Don't make it that demanding. Make it simple and collect the data as often as possible so that you are able to, and then use the gamification. The traffic counts and bicycle trail in the US, especially in San Jose, the public school students are given as a, as a project, as a fun thing to do outside the classroom. They go to the main streets or the parks and they start counting the number of bikes that are going, so that it is a fun activity for the school-going children, as well as, it's a very, very engaging. Community engagement is very important for most of the programs. If the community is not engaged, they are not going to follow that. That's one of the challenges that people have. This is another huge problem for all of us. Do we really need big? Can't we be happy with a smaller one? So as designers, we want to be considering the environment. Supply chain monitoring, I was very happy to, Hemant is left early. I was very happy to see that, they have a plan to do the Puna, which is, basically reusing whatever they're creating the mess, they're also cleaning the mess. That is what most of the companies are not doing. They are very happy to put their dollars and, millions of dollars to bring technology, but the residue is left to the society to handle, which is not a great thing to do for greener sites. And then motivating recycling. Most of the time, the change, it takes like 2 generations. Whatever we want to do, it takes at least 15, 20, 30 years. And that's one of the problems. How do you get these changes to make our habits change? Because nobody likes to change. Therefore, this is a long-term plan. Don't expect short-term results like day after tomorrow. You've brought in a great design, but nothing happened. It's going to take time. So you need to have an education side by side when you're practicing your design and helping cities to build better. Together, we can design a better world. I'm very confident and optimistic about it. That brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, we can let the next presenter switch on. Yes.
Hello, sir. You gave the example of how when you return a can, you get 5 cents back, but still people are so lazy. This, I think, is a very grassroots level of laziness or insensitiveness for people anywhere in the world. So even if I consider my colony or society, it starts from every home for the practice of recycling or segregating garbage. Any like a simple basic tool of education that people could start following, which could be which could be effectively applied?
I'm still looking for that. As part of the non-profit, some of the things that we do at school, the best thing is to keep educating, keep talking about it, maybe incentivizing more. Not by the money. It's not the 5 cents that drives people. But if there was the best citizen of the city or the best citizen of the building who was doing more recycling, though people want recognition, not necessarily money. If you're able to turn them on recognition, perhaps that might work. So you'll be happy to wear the badge saying that, the recycler of the month, Srini, Srinivasan, maybe a good way to push me to go and do that. Thank you very much. Yeah, you had a question? If it can wait next, I'm here. I can answer because I want to respect the time because, we're already running late today. Thank you very much again.